Show on the Gruely True Sports Network. The NFL show, as always, is brought to you by pathofpurity.direct. If you're in the market for CBD right now, pathofpurity.direct, you click on the link. You can find the link on the website. It's Path of Purity. It's on the right-hand side, about halfway down on the gruelingtruth.com. Click that. You get 2 months for the price of one. So it's $75 for 2 months of CBD. It is pure CBD, organic. And the great thing is you put it in and you put it under your tongue. You don't have to take a drop or anything or measure it out. Just leave it under your tongue. It dissolves. It goes to your system right away. And then it time releases over 12 hours. So make sure you check out pathofpurity.direct. I'm your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpasser. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's good to be back with you again.
I see you messing with it. I already got it. See, I was way ahead of you.
Before I get there.
And today we're going to look at the top free agents of 2021. And there's a lot of guys here that are very interesting. And we're going to start off with Dak Prescott. And when you look at Dak Prescott, do you think there's a chance he ends up anywhere other than where he's at?
I think there's a very slim chance, and that's because Dallas is in such a cap hole already because they paid Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper so much money. I mean, that's would probably be the reason why. If Dak asks for $35 million a year with the salary cap going down, I don't know if it would be a smart move for Dallas to pay that. I understand that he's a top 10 quarterback when healthy, and those guys don't grow on trees. But really, you could be hamstringing yourself to the point where you're never going to be able to fix the defense if you pay him so much money, and the offensive line will only get worse.
Yeah, but if you're going to do that, you're not going to go with Dak Prescott. Who do you go with? Because you got to sign Andy Dalton yet. People could bid on Andy Dalton. I'm sure Andy Dalton's going to probably come at half the price, maybe even less than that. And is Andy Dalton a guy that can get you to the Super Bowl even if your defense is good?
Probably not at this point in his career. Let me ask you this. It's Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott could get you there if you have a very good defense, but I still feel like Dallas is maybe 2 or 3 years away from having a fixed offensive line and a very good defense. So I don't know if even getting Dak Prescott in the immediate future is going to make you a Super Bowl contender.
Not in the immediate future, but the future you got to look at is 3 or 4 years down the road. I mean, you could draft guys, sign free agents. You got to be creative with the cap space, which I'm sure Jerry can be. But I do believe Dak Prescott's a guy that can win you a Super Bowl. I would take Dak Prescott over Lamar Jackson all day.
And Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback, and we saw in the Mike McCarthy system, he was putting up really historic record-breaking numbers potentially before everything went downhill with the injury and all that. Let me ask you this. Is Jameis Winston the kind of guy who turns the ball over quite a bit? Well, would Jameis Winston fit in a system where Mike McCarthy hasn't been throwing the ball that much with all those receiver whips they have there?
Let me ask you this. Is Jameis Winston, even at his best, even half of Dak Prescott?
No, probably not. Jameis Winston
problem.
Over, like 4 times every other game?
I mean, you got to figure this. Even if the team's going to be bad again, you're going to get a high draft pick. You fire Mike McCarthy, you get a real coach. 2 years from now, you still got Dak Prescott. You fixed everything. I mean, you have to sign Dak Prescott if you're the Dallas Cowboys. I don't see any options. What are you going to do? Go out and get Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah, and when you put it that way, Dak gives you the best chance to immediately win the quarterback spot. And you're not going to find a better option out there outside of maybe – they'll never trade for Deshaun Watson, Matt Stafford, so there's no point even bringing that up.
Well, the problem there is this, though. If you do that, you're in the same predicament you already are because you got to pay those guys $30 million.
You got to pay – Watson's cap number is pretty low this year. Actually, it's like around $10 million. But after that, it jumps up to that ridiculous number where it gets into the 20s and 30s and keeps going up and up. So I think you're in a spot right now where by not signing him to a deal last year, you might have actually hurt yourself more.
Well, how about this, though? If you were to make the Dak Prescott trade right now for Deshaun Watson, 1 year it drops down to $10 million. Then your cap space is all right. You're going to get to hit the next year, but it also gives you time to prepare for it. I think the only way this could work would be that, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, I don't either. That'd be absolutely insane if something like that was actually pulled off.
All right, let's go to your number 2, which is Trent Williams, Trent Williams played really well this year. And what do you think the take is here? Does he come back to San Francisco?
I think it depends on what the 49ers do with some of the other free agents they have. I mean, we're talking about the quarterback position already with Dak Prescott. If the 49ers decide to pull something where they move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, it could affect, obviously, the salary cap situation and things like that. I think they will go after Trent Williams as much as possible because he's been one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL for 8 or 9 years at this point. These guys, especially someone like Trent Williams' caliber, you don't get them every day. He's only 32 years old. We see guys like Andrew Whitworth, obviously he's lost a step, but he's still a quality left tackle. He's, 37, 38 at this point. Even Dwayne Brown in Seattle is about 35, 36. So Trent Williams, I know he's got some injury issues, but I think you have to go after him if you're San Francisco. You're not going to find another better left tackle in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, but San Francisco's problem is going to be this. There's a lot of teams with more sap calorie space, and Trent Williams is a guy that doesn't grow on trees. Is there a team in the NFL that couldn't use Trent Williams?
Probably not. I don't think so. I mean, really, outside of maybe Baltimore and Green Bay, if those left tackles come back healthy, no, everyone else will be looking into him. And I'll throw out this team because the Indianapolis Colts, obviously, Anthony Costanzo retired. He was their longtime left tackle. I think he was there 10 years. If you're the Colts and you have all that salary cap money, you can be chasing quarterbacks and you can be chasing Trent Williams this year.
Well, how about this? If you're the Colts, what about the Bengals? I think the Colts and the Bengals are the two perfect landing spots because, number one, what you've got is a 32-year-old guy with the Bengals that can play for 5 or 6 years. You already know that he can play. You don't know if Slater from Northwestern or Sewell can play in the NFL. It's all conjecture right now by the so-called experts. But if you were to make a signing, if you're the Bengals and you were to sign Trent Williams and give him a massive amount of money, which the Bengals have enough cap space room to do that, then it also makes it so you could go out and maybe get Chase with your 5th pick in the 1st round, and you've just taken care of 2 birds with, 2 stones. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, make it much simpler. What about Jacksonville, though? I mean, Jacksonville has to be in the conversation as well. Jacksonville, I think, has the most cap space of any team this offseason.
They have the most cap space. My question is, if I'm Trent Williams, though, if I go to Cincinnati, it may sound crazy, but you've got Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins. I mean, it's a really good offense, and the defense was improving during the season. If you go to Indianapolis, you're like the last piece to fix that offensive line and make it even better than what it was because Trent Williams is better than Anthony Costanzo was. So when you look at that, the Bengals have more offensive weapons than the Colts, and they have a quarterback that everybody thinks is going to be that. So to me, maybe it's the Bengals and the Colts. I don't know if Trent Williams would even consider the Bengals, but to me, the Colts seems like a perfect pick. And really, if he wants to win a Super Bowl, San Francisco is the perfect pick because right now, if you're telling me they're completely healthy, even with Jimmy Garoppolo, I would say this may be nuts, but if they're healthy, I think they're the best team in the NFC.
I don't know if I would go the entire NFC, but I think definitely their own division. I mean,
who would be better going into next year?
If Tampa Bay has everyone back, I know.
See, that's the point. You just said if they have everybody back.
Yeah. But again, we're saying if everyone's healthy for San Francisco. There's always ifs in these situations, but I think they will be the best team in their division. I mean, look what happened to Seattle halfway through the season. They absolutely fell apart. And I'm convinced that Pete Carroll and that coaching staff are always going to find a way to mess it up. I don't think they're ever going to get back to a Super Bowl, even with Russell Wilson.
No, I think Seattle right now, their only way to get back to the Super Bowl is to fire Pete Carroll and his entire staff. They finally fired Bevel, the offensive coordinator, who's terrible. Pete Carroll's not a great football coach. I mean, Pete Carroll got blessed with maybe the greatest collection of defensive players in NFL history. And he had Russell Wilson. He had Marshawn Lynch. They were loaded. Since those guys, since it's kind of petered out, the defense has kind of disappeared. The offense, I mean, he goes from, 1 year wanting to run the ball every down to this year, starting the year out, wants to throw it all the time. Then he goes to running it. I don't think Pete Carroll's the answer there. And I think really for Seattle to be successful, they need to fire Pete Carroll.
Yeah, you need a change in management really for the Seattle Seahawks. Even the front office. I mean, even Schneider, the GM, they haven't really drafted that well the past couple of years. I know I did Ken Metcalf, obviously. But looking overall, compared to those first couple of years back in 2010, 11, 12, they have not drafted nearly as well in the past nearly decade at this point. I think the front office and some of their draft picks are a problem here.
Well, how about this? I think that when you look at it, anybody can draft some wide receivers. I mean, the fact is they've missed on a lot of offensive line and defensive linemen, and that's what's put them in the situation they're in.
Yeah, the offensive line continues to be horrible. It's one of the worst in the NFL. So much because Russell Wilson can move around there and plays. It didn't have a mobile quarterback, you'd be in the water. And frankly, with Russell Wilson getting up there in age or starting to get a little bit older, you have to invest more in the offensive line for your Seattle. You can't continue relying on him to save this team.
All right, now a lot of people might be surprised to see that your number 3 on the list is Allen Robinson, wide receiver for Chicago Bears. Robinson, though, has put up elite numbers without an elite quarterback. And I think that he's the best wide receiver in this free agency. The Bears, they tried to trade him as late as November, but he remained in Chicago. They're unwilling to give him a big money deal. I don't know why, because they've got a wide receiver. They're not very good. No. And if you're planning on spending a lot of money on a quarterback and bringing one in, I mean, you can do that. But, I mean, Allen Robinson to me is the guy you got to have here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Allen Robinson, could you imagine pairing this guy with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL? This guy had a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or someone like that. He'd be producing like what he did in 2015 when he had 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. He'd be in that range yet again. And he's been working with the entire time of his career, like Bortles, Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky. He's never had an elite quarterback. And we've seen the past 2 years been very consistent. He's been a borderline elite receiver. And compared to the two other really good receivers in this rate class, I think Allen Robinson's just better because he can do more. And he's done more with less.
All right, Mike Honcho, I think, says he should go to the Pats. I just noted he made the comment. I believe this. I believe Allen Robinson will be a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah, that'd be something. They would really love to have him and Devontae Parker next to each other.
All right, let's go to Denver, the team you said would make the playoffs this year, Justin Simmons or Simmons, whatever. So tell me about Justin. Will the Broncos re-sign him?
Yeah, the Broncos are going to do everything they can do to get Justin Simmons back because of what he's meant to that defense. With Von Miller not being there, he's been the best team player on that defensive unit the past 2 years, pretty much, even with Miller being healthy last season. And there's been some off-the-field controversy with Von Miller, so who knows if he'll even be back to Denver. Simmons has been the leader in the secondary, and pairing him with Kareem Jackson, who's the air safety right now, that's been a special duo. They're finally getting some players healthy, and I think they will be a much better team next year. Oh, I thought the same thing coming into this season. It didn't work out, so who knows? But
your problem is this. Who's the quarterback?
Exactly.
So how are they going to be better? You got to have a quarterback.
Maybe the new GM will not pull a John Elway. Maybe he'll pick a good quarterback instead of just a tall white guy.
Well, I mean, tall white guys are usually fail because guys over 6'4" usually fail.
No, that's right. I mean, but you get some outliers every now and then.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. Did you see the video of Drew Brees and Tom Brady after the divisional playoff game on the field with Drew Brees' kids?
Yeah, I saw the video.
Did Tom Brady not look like a freaking giant next to Drew Brees?
He did. He looked like he was a full, half a foot tall. I would imagine it's what you get when you have the varsity quarterback next to the JV quarterback.
Yeah, that's basically what they are, too. I hate to say that, but because Drew Brees is a great quarterback. But, yeah, I think that's a good comparison. Let's go to number 5, Lavonte David. Now, Lavonte David is a stud. I mean, he's a great cover linebacker. Tampa Bay, if they want to win it again next year, need to re-sign him. And the other thing is this, though. If Tom Brady wins or loses, do you think there's any chance he retires?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I think I mentioned it in one of my articles. It might have actually been this one. I can't remember. I'm looking at it right now. But there's a chance that Brady might walk away if he wins. I think it was very unlikely because Brady's the kind of guy who's always wanted more. And that's what's made him partially great. He's always tried to get more. He's always tried to win the next one, always looking forward. So I think there's a small chance he would retire. But I would more lean towards the side of him actually coming back because he'll want to win one more. If he gets 2 in Tampa Bay back-to-back to end his career, I mean, that'd be great.
Oh, but then he'll want 3, right? Nobody's ever won 3 in a row.
That's true. I mean, look, there have been reports that he's even thinking ahead because apparently his family loves the Tampa Bay area. There's reports he's even thinking ahead to maybe getting an extension here, maybe trying to make a 3-year deal with Tampa Bay instead of just sticking with 2 years.
All right, that's not going to work because I will say this. Next year, he will not be what he was. I mean, the arm strength thing, I mean, it still looks pretty good most of the time. He still looks a little older to me. He looks like he sees things a little later. I think that's why you're getting the interceptions. But let's go back to Lavonte David. Lavonte David, I think, no doubt, one of the best inside linebackers in all of football. I'd imagine Tampa Bay is going to want to sign him. I'd imagine a lot of people would be willing to give him a lot of money, though.
Oh, yeah, and Mike Conscious in the chat saying the Browns need David. The Browns do need linebacking help. That is something they were looking at. And the Buccaneers have a lot of free agents this offseason. I mean, it's Lavonte David and Ndamukong Suh's up there as well. So is Shaq Barrett. You're not going to be able to keep all these guys. You're probably going to be able to keep one. So the question is, which one of these defensive pieces do you want to keep around?
Which one would you want to keep around?
I want Lavonte David. Like I said, I think Lavonte David is the most irreplaceable part of this defense because of what he brings to the table. Now, he is 31 years old, so he's older than some of these guys. He's older than someone like Shaq Barrett. And the question is, what does he want versus how much are you willing to pay him? Because for a 31-year-old off-ball linebacker, the numbers are going to be very tricky to work out there because David might view himself as being someone who wants to get paid like Bobby Wagner. But Bobby Wagner signed his contract at 28, 29 years old.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to get Bobby Wagner money if you're Lavonte David, even though you're almost that good.
All right. And I don't know why Lavonte David would want to go to Cleveland, Mike. Come on. They capped out at what they could do this year. I'm just kidding. Brandon Schreff, Washington Redskins, big signing for him last year. Played well this year. Once again, he's a stud guard. Everybody could use one. Where does he end up? Does he stay in Washington?
I wouldn't be shocked if Washington goes out and franchise tags him a second time in a row because he's that good. He was a first-team All-Pro, meaning he's the best player at his position this year in the NFL. He has an injury history. He's not played in a 16-game season since 2016. That's the big concern. But this is a football team that lost Trent Williams about 2 years ago at this point, and you have some good offensive linemen there. You have Morgan Moses, who's pretty good at right tackle. You've got some people who can help out that, and even your center. Your center is pretty good as well. So the whole right side of the line with Schreff, Moses, and their center is solid. Its left side needs work. And with you potentially needing a new quarterback, I think you have to keep the offensive line intact to help out whoever new is when they come in.
All right. So do you think he goes elsewhere? Or do you think they will give him that money? It is a big risk with the injury issues.
I think like I said, I think franchise tag again. I really think that's not a great way to go about it because it'll probably just annoy him to the point where he won't want to sign there long term. But I would rather franchise tag him than let him sign with another team.
All right, next up, number 7, Chris Godwin. Good one. Do you really think he's that good?
I'm having reservations. I always thought Mike Evans was better. I'll say that first. I always thought Mike Evans was better. But he had a good year in 2019. My concern with him this year is the drops lately. The drops the past 2 or 3 weeks have been there. He's been dropping a lot of passes. I don't know why.
He gets hurt. Doesn't he get hurt a little more than most people too?
A little bit. He played all 16 games his first 2 years in the league, 14 in 2019 and 12 this year. So injury is maybe a bit of a mounting concern. I don't know. I think he could be a legit number 1 on a team. I just don't know if there are a lot more questions here with him than there are with Allen Robinson. Let me put it that way. There's a huge drop off to me between Robinson to Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I think that's why Godwin ends up staying in Tampa.
Well, again, you can win championship there, win back-to-back potentially if you win this one. And you'll have Mike Evans. You'll have people around you to help you out as well. You're not going to be the guy getting double covered every play. All
right, next up, we got Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay, wide receiver, Detroit Lions. I actually like him better than Godwin.
I've been back and forth. I really like Kenny Golladay. I just have to admit that there's some limitations to an extent. He's more a deep ball threat, great red zone threat as well, but not going to give you everything underneath it, everything short that Chris Godwin can give you.
He doesn't drop the ball as much.
No, he doesn't have the drop issues. That's one thing he's correct.
And I think he's a better vertical threat.
Well, he's phenomenal vertical threat. I mean, 6'4", 214 pounds.
So I'm telling you this: if I'm gonna give a lot of money to somebody, I'm giving it to Golladay because he's more explosive than Godwin.
I think that's fair. I just like to go with the more complete receiver. I think Golladay is more along the lines of a one-trick pony right now.
All right, I don't know why you're calling players animals, Sam. It's really not nice. But
don't phrase it that way.
Oh, okay. Why? I mean it either way because I know you have no respect for athletes.
Wow.
Not since you met Steve Risley. You got to let me finish. Next, Golladay, I think, is the perfect candidate for the New England Patriots. I think he fits perfectly there.
No, I mean, that would give you the receiving threat that you absolutely need because the Patriots have not had that guy. I mean, Julian Edelman didn't play. Did he play at all this year? I don't think so. So you're going to need
a little bit, but not very much. Not very.
Yeah, you're going to need a new top receiver there at New England this year.
I think he may have had like one great game, like week 3 or 4, and then we didn't see him again.
Oh yeah. I think you're right now. I think
because I remember us talking about him and being impressed and thinking that maybe it didn't. All right, Taylor Meton, offensive tackle, Carolina Panthers. As you say, right tackles don't receive the same praise or paychecks as left tackles. But most teams need a right tackle. And I think this is a guy that you almost have to re-sign if you're Carolina, but it's a guy that a lot of people are going to go after. Once again, he would fit good in Cincinnati.
Yeah, he would. He'd be perfect in Cincinnati, actually. He'd be perfect in a lot of places, though, because he is I was thinking top 5 right tackle at this point. Not going to be an all-pro necessarily, but he's up there. And if you are Matt Rule, you can't not let this guy walk out the building. You can't leave this guy on the side of the road.
Figure this out. If the Bengals were to sign Trent Williams, Brandon Schreff, and Taylor Moton, there you go. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah, there you go. They're in the playoffs, probably a first-round exit, but at least they're in the playoffs.
Not a first-round exit, but why do you say it like that? Your team got beat by the Cleveland Browns in the first round.
Yeah, I guess I can't be one to talk right now.
No, you can't, Sam. So go ahead.
I was saying, if you're Carolina, you can't lose Taylor Moton because of how good he's been right now. And frankly, he's the best player on your offensive line. If you're rebuilding right now in Carolina, the first thing you need to fix is that offensive line. So losing him would be set you back at least a year.
But if I'm Mouton, do I want to be in Carolina?
You want to be wherever you can win. The question is, which team that's ready to win right now has the salary cap to pay you and make you one of the top 5 highest paid right tackles in football?
The Cincinnati Bengals.
I guess if you say that Cincinnati's in a position to win, then yes.
They've got Joe Burrow. We've went through this before.
That's right. I forgot.
Okay.
Joe Burrow winning every Super Bowl starting next year.
I think it might be 2023 when that starts. I'm not sure. I'll have to call him again and double check. Next up, we had Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett, if you watched him on Sunday, you know this dude's a stud. His numbers aren't what they were in 2019, but this is a big-time player. And, you know, it's hard to find an edge rusher like this, and almost any team could use another edge rusher. So people are going to be all over him. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, you probably got to let somebody go. That's what makes it so hard to win. How about this? I think the perfect place for Shaq Barrett is either Green Bay or Tennessee.
Tennessee would love to have him. Tennessee needs a top pass rusher, and Shaq Barrett is absolutely that. And like you said, looking at what he did to Green Bay, he had 3 sacks in that game alone. And he's not going to be the guy who's going to produce 19.5 sacks a year like he did in 2019, but he's still going to get you roughly 10 sacks and a ton of pressures. You put him in Tennessee, that defense is automatically significantly better. But Green Bay, putting him next to Zadarius Smith, and Zadarius Smith on one side, Shaq Barrett on the other, that would be arguably the best pass rushing duo in football.
So that's why I don't because I looked through a lot of stuff before we do this. I never saw anybody even mention Green Bay for him. If I'm Green Bay, I'm telling Aaron Rodgers, see, I want to win you a Super Bowl, so I'm going out to do this. I think right there, it makes Aaron Rodgers happy. You've got maybe the best pass rush in football, at least from the edges. And I think that it is a no-brainer. But then again, it was a no-brainer to get Aaron Rodgers a wide receiver or a defensive player last year, and they picked his second-string quarterback.
Yeah, second-string quarterback who might not see the field ever in a Green Bay uniform. He's going to be – they're going to have to pick up his fifth-year option, having never seen him start a game, because Aaron Rodgers is never going to get off the field.
And he'll probably ask for a lot more money, too, since it'll be his 5th year.
Yeah, it's going to be – I have no idea what they're thinking, honestly. There's no point in doing what they did.
Yeah. All right. The Seattle Seahawks plan to hire Shane Waldron from the Rams as the offensive coordinator. What do you think of that?
Oh, another Sean McVay hire. How?
Oh, yeah. Waldron has not called plays in any of his 7 seasons as an NFL assistant. And I think even when he coached Pee Wee football in L.A., he was just a running backs coach.
Yeah. Let's not sugarcoat this. This is a Sean McVay hire. This is trying to find the next hot offensive genius because he's somehow attached to Sean McVay.
Yeah, and the Cincinnati Bengals will tell you how that works out. But this looks like what Pete Carroll would do. I mean, he had Brian Schottenheimer. That was a mess. I mean, his coordinators have been terrible for the last few years is the biggest reason why they've sucked. And, I mean, they had all kind of guys that they were interested in that they interviewed, and they picked the least qualified.
Yeah, we've talked about guys who haven't been calling offensive plays for head coaching jobs. When we said, look, if you're not calling the plays, how can we put our full faith in you, really? And we criticized basically every coaching hire this year that's been a non-play calling coach. And I think now you're putting a guy in an offensive coordinator position that he's never had the responsibilities of doing really before. He's never called plays. You're going to be asked to do that in Seattle. And if you're the Seahawks, this is not the time to be experimenting with young coaches. You need to find someone who's qualified to do this because your window for winning is going to get smaller every year. I don't imagine you're going to have a 5 or 6 year span. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Seattle probably has a 3 or 4 year span to win right now.
I don't even know if they've got that long of span. I don't know if they have a span right now. They got to make some moves. All right, let's look at some Super Bowl news. Several injured players for the Chiefs and Buccaneers are expected to be healthy for Super Bowl. What is this, 55?
It's 55 or 54, I think.
It's 55.
Let me figure it out.
What was the first Super Bowl you remember watching, Sam?
That was actually Pittsburgh, Seattle. That was the first one I remember. That was the first one I remember.
So Super Bowl 40 is the first one you remember.
Yeah. I missed
You know the first Super Bowl I remember watching?
What was it, like 20-something?
10.
10.
Super Bowl 10. Dallas and Pittsburgh.
Old.
I know. I was cheering for Pittsburgh. The interesting thing is that game was actually played at 1 o'clock during the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They used to play it like it was a regular game, but they played at 1 o'clock. And the pregame show, if I remember right, was only like a half hour or an hour long.
It sounds actually better.
Oh,
it sounds better.
It was, except for the 1 o'clock start time. Because the fact was, my mom needed to go to the store, and I had to listen to the first quarter on a radio. That
sucks.
I know. But I don't remember a long pregame show until like Super Bowl 17 or 18, maybe. Because I remember Super Bowl 16 with the Bengals 49ers, the pregame show was an hour and a half, and the game started at 4:30.
It makes sense. I guess the more money you make, the more ads and stuff you have to slip in and that kind of stuff, the more of a show it becomes.
Oh, let's get back to what we were talking about. The Chiefs running back Le'Veon Bell, wide receiver Sammy Watkins, as well as the Bucs duo of wide receivers Antonio Brown and safety Antoine Winfield are all expected to be ready for September the 7th. All four missed the conference championship game. I think Sammy Watkins is a guy that could really cause some issues for the Tampa Bay defense, but I think when you look at this, the Antonio Brown and Winfield thing are probably the two biggest ones here to me.
Yeah, Winfield would be huge because the other safety suffered a shoulder injury, I believe, during the game against Green Bay when he was forcing a fumble on Aaron Jones. So you have some issues there at safety. And Winfield Jr. was one of the best rookie defenders in the league this year. He's probably already a top 10 safety. So you have something like that on your defense. He's automatically your best player in your secondary. Because I know Carlton Davis, your best corner, he's been burned left and right throughout the playoffs. So you have Winfield there that helps you out significantly. And the receivers, I can see them making an impact as well. But I think defensively, you need all the resources you can get at this point for Green Bay. Or Tampa Bay, sorry.
All right, 2 days after Aaron Rodgers opened up speculation about his future with the Green Bay Packers, the presumptive NFL MVP said Tuesday that he has reason to think he will be back with the only team he has ever played for during his 16-year career. But, of course, he had to do what Aaron Rodgers would normally do, is throw a little kick in there. And he said, I don't think there's any reason why I wouldn't be back. But look, there's not many absolutes in this business, so I can't really make an absolute statement. Rodgers goes back to Green Bay, correct?
Yeah, they're not letting him out of the building. That won't happen. Aaron Rodgers will probably meet with the GM, and he'll probably work something out where he gets either more guaranteed money on his deal or where they talk about Aaron Rodgers has more say, and he'll be like, look, you need to draft a receiver at this point in the draft or something like that. There will be some input there, but he's not leaving Green Bay. He'll be back.
All right, Devontae Smith, Tua Tagovailoa have discussed possible reunion with the Dolphins. We could have a possible reunion there with Alabama, have an LSU reunion with Chase and Burrow in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. You would have then Jamar Chase and T. Higgins then on the same team as Joe Burrow. I mean, that'd be a pretty interesting combination considering their history with when they play the national championship game. It would be fun to see that actually, though, because you don't get to see very many times college quarterbacks reunite with the receivers they played with. And a lot of times, I don't know if it could produce a great duo, but I think Chase is a great player. I'm less sure about Smith, although I do believe that some of the concerns about his size are a little bit overblown.
I think Smith will be a good player. The only reason I would take Chase is because of the size. I just think that Chase is going to be able to take the beating more. Plus, I think Chase is more explosive down the field on a deep ball.
Yeah, when I watched Devonta Smith, he's fast. Don't get me wrong, they're all fast to me though. But he's not extremely speedy. He's in quick, in like short area situations. It's more methodical, but he always gets open. He always can have the explosiveness that some of the guys you want to find in the first round will have.
All right, here's a question. Can the Philadelphia Eagles coach Nick Sirianni fix Carson Wentz?
I don't know. Nick Sirianni, this was not play caller. He was not play caller in Indianapolis. He was a Frank Reich guy. I mean, that's why they brought him in. He's a Frank Reich guy, and they're hoping that they couldn't get Frank Reich.
He was an offensive coordinator. That's what it says.
He was. He wasn't calling plays, though. That's Frank Reich's job. So, I don't know. I don't think this is the perfect fix. I think Carson Wentz will do better than last year because there's really only nowhere for him to go but up. I just don't know if he'll ever be the guy he was in his second and third of the year in the NFL when he was an MVP candidate. I don't know if he'll ever get back to that level.
And whatever happened to Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, I don't know. As all rumors were saying, he had like an 11-hour meeting with Philadelphia at one point. So he had an extended meeting with them, and then I never worked out. I mean, good for them, though. I mean, Josh McDaniels probably would have been a mistake hiring him, considering everything that's happened in the past and considering I don't know how his offenses haven't been that successful anyways with New England the past couple of years. So I don't think Josh McDaniels is ever going to get that head coaching job.
That's a damn shame. Well, he did get a head coaching job and he blew it.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's not going to. I don't think he'll get another one.
All right, they're still waiting on Drew Brees to make a decision. Any chance he comes back?
No. I mean, look, Drew Brees was not great in 2019, and this past year, yes, he played with injuries and all that stuff, but he could barely throw the ball 20 yards downfield in that game against Tampa Bay. And you got to think at some point, he's just physically doesn't have it anymore. He has to walk away now. It'll be worse if he comes back.
All right, Sam, anything else we want to discuss before we wrap it up?
I think we hit on all the big news. We're probably going to get some more information come out in the coming days before the Super Bowl, but I think we hit on all the big news for the day.
All right, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we will be back with the NFL show. We will talk Deshaun Watson and the multitude of possibilities of where he could go. I'll tell you why, if you're a Chicago Bear fan, don't have any hope because he's not coming to Chicago. There's not a chance in hell. He's not going to be a Bear. Y'all could have picked him a couple years ago and you didn't, and look what the mess you created. So he will not be a Bear. But tomorrow, maybe me and Sam will shed a little light on where we think he'll go. And, you know, Sam is right like half the time. I'm always right. So just check it out. We might both be right if we agree. And that's it, Sam. You can follow Sam Teets at Sam Teets33. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you go pathofpurity.direct to get 2 months of CBD for the price of one. Time released, actually stays in your system for 12 hours, gets in your system almost immediately. So check them out at pathofpurity.direct. Make sure you go sign up for free with an email account on Rockfin through the Grueling Truth to help us out there. And check out thegruelingtruth.com. So tonight at 7 o'clock, we will be back with the Old Time Boxing Show, where we look back at the career of former heavyweight contender Jimmy Young, myself, and boxing historian Christopher Shelton. So make sure you check us out live tonight at 7 o'clock on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and a bunch of other places. I mean, one of them's in India. I don't even know how to say their name, but it's like our third most listened to place. We kick ass in India. So I'm hoping maybe I can turn that into owning a 7-Eleven. All right, let's go ahead and let's wrap it up. I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody for that, but I still thought it was funny, and I don't really give a shit. All right. So for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends